So thank you for your time this morning, Laura. With us today are members of the Lawn Sentry team, Prabhu, Sean, Ryan, and Ro. I'm Forrest, and I'll spend the first few minutes kind of walking you through our proposal, the problem space, and the solution, and then I'll open it up, and we can have a conversation about any questions you might have. The other folks will weigh in. Okay. All right, so quick overview. Lawn Sentry is attempting to solve what we consider to be an enormous problem, and that's both for individual households and society as a whole. The issue is really encapsulated in the first line on the screen. Half the water we use outdoors is just lost due to wind, evaporation, and runoff caused by inefficient irrigation. So until I started this project, I really had personally no idea as to the magnitude of that problem. But clearly it's really significant. So Lawn Sentry has a solution that monitors grass and soil moisture to optimize outdoor water use. And over time, our solution will reduce individual household water costs, and that's great. But at scale, we think Lawn Sentry can really make a dent in that 50%, and that's sort of the ultimate goal. All right, so digging a little bit deeper into the problem space, aside from that big 50% number, if water management were easier for households, we'd probably waste a lot less of it. So it's very difficult for us to measure the amount of water used outdoors, and it's even harder to get down to the individual sprinkler or zone, right? So the proof of this is that on average, that monthly household water bill has sort of just steadily increased over about the last 10 years. A lot of homes have rain sensors that should shut off sprinkler systems during a downpour and such, and that would certainly fix part of the problem. But when we talk to sort of potential customers and industry experts, the feedback we got was that most of these sensors are just extremely unreliable and inaccurate. So even when they work, though, they're not measuring moisture on the ground. And so it's really then impossible to describe the value of cost savings even when those moisture sensors and cutoffs do work. How much water was saved, how much money was saved, that ends up being kind of a mystery. So the more we spoke with experts and customers, the more we found some common themes. Using less water is a real aspirational goal. But there are a variety of factors like price, maintenance, reliability, difficulty of installation. All those things kind of get in the way. So it's a real problem, and the market's looking for a good, elegant solution. And that's kind of where we come in. So when we thought about how to build Lawn Sentry correctly, we thought number one about accuracy, right? So Lawn Sentry is the most accurate way for households to manage water use. Other solutions track weather conditions, but Lawn Sentry monitors moisture on the ground. And by doing that, it's able to also help visualize savings. And that's both in terms of water used and real money spent on that water bill. So we want to help households understand savings that they realize through our solution. And we do that through this mobile app that keeps track of how often a watering cycle is cut short and then translates that into this easy to understand readout. Our solution can be used as a standalone or part of a bigger home automation system, and we think that's going to be a really big deal in the years to come. So the app's part of it, but that's really just the front end. This is a very technical solution. Here's a little bit more about how that underlying technology works. We put an array of sensors in the lawn soil to detect moisture in each zone, and that enables granular control over water distribution and management. There's a head unit that manages water shutoff, and soil moisture detection is done in real time on the premises. So there's a degree of accuracy, again, that is just not achievable using weather forecast data like many of our competitors might. And then all of that information is sent to that mobile app so users understand what's going on. That's going to be key. So Lawn Sentry is interoperable with other sprinkler control systems, and that means that customers won't have to rip anything out in order to use the product. Lastly, we have intellectual property at risk here, so our technology is novel and can be protected by patents. Now, we think that every home with sprinklers could benefit from a Lawn Sentry system, but we're going to start by focusing on the segment that we think will benefit the most, new home builds in the western US. And that's a region where the home starts are generally strong and where drought conditions are prevalent, so water use is top of mind. To size that market, we looked at housing starts in that target region, and then we followed the existing growth trend of about 6% annually, got to about 350,000 new homes to be built in 2019, and then 419,000 by 2022. We then assumed that about 8% of those homes would have home automation systems, and that figure was provided by the Consumer Technology Association. In our opinion, it's a pretty conservative estimate. So anyway, that 8% really represents the slice of folks we think will be most interested in Lawn Sentry. And then finally, we applied the average price of a competitive moisture system to end up with the figures on the screen. So if we take all of that into account, you can see the size and growth of the market in blue. And again, that's a conservative estimate. We think we can get to 5% in year 1 and achieve 15% share in year 3. That's about 1.2 million annually. All right, so that's a decent market and it's going to get bigger fast. So what about the competition? We think there are 2 types of competitors, sensor providers like Rainbird and Hunter, and more complex IoT type solutions like Rachio and Grow. Historically, competitive factors in this space are price and ease of install and brand awareness. That's really indicative of a mature, low margin space, but remember that none of these solutions are meeting emerging customer needs. So based on industry trends and evolving expectations, we think that new key factors include, again, accuracy, reliability, and the ability to visualize that value. Lawn Sentry's positioned to meet those needs and compete on new factors, right? We're at a disadvantage when it comes to price, awareness, and ease of install, but we have a plan to address those deficiencies because we have a great marketing and sales strategy. Our product and positioning line up with those competitive advantages, again, accuracy and visualization of value, and we can minimize our disadvantages. We're going to use value-based pricing that considers the lifetime value of the product over several years, and we expect that to be inclusive of a number of sensors, 4 on average, plus the price of the control unit. One of our disadvantages is installation and the difficulty of it potentially. So we offer professional installation for another $100, $99 really, and that still means that the price of an average Lawn Sentry system is less than Rachio and still kind of competitive with Grow. All right, so we're not at a price disadvantage really. And finally, what about the sales component? Now, we could go directly after consumers, but we think that's a tough market for a new company to crack. So instead, we'll initially target home builders and HOAs. This focus makes it easier for Lawn Sentry to gain market share by establishing strong B2B relationships with just a few companies. And bear in mind that if we're successful, the price of the system will typically be rolled into the cost of a new home or HOA membership. All right, so our management team's focus will be sales growth in the near term, and we're likely to be cash flow negative, we think, for the first 2 to 3 years as we work through product development and stand up our sales and ops team. We're going to learn a lot in those first couple of years, and if our cost estimates and penetration projections hold true, we think cash flow will break even in about year 4. These are early projections. We'll get more detailed in the next couple of weeks. All right, so again, we're early stage, but we've already completed our first milestone, that kind of initial concept design, and we're hard at work on our second milestone, a functional prototype. We're looking for $500,000 in seed funding from an investor to help us move from prototype to initial production. And we expect to do another raise of $2 million for multiple investors in order to hit full-scale production in year 2. Funds are going to be compensated with equity, but once those initial orders roll in, we'll use debt to further finance the business. All right, so we think we've got a great product and a great sales and marketing strategy. And more importantly, we think that we're the right people to pull this off. We have strong backgrounds in engineering and software development, and we're very committed to water conservation. We do have gaps. None of us really has a strong B2B sales background or experience specifically in the home automation space. We'll hire early on in order to fill those gaps. Okay, so in summary, if there's anything that you take away from this, Laura, I hope you remember that half the water we use outdoors is simply lost, and that's an enormous problem. Lawn Sentry is going to be the most accurate way to manage that outdoor water use and the best way to understand the benefits of good water management. It's a key component of next generation smart homes. We're serious about water conservation, and our management team is well-rounded and committed. If we're successful in this endeavor, we can exit via sale to a competitor like Rachio or to a company that really wants to own the home automation space. And that's really promising because several large cable companies like Comcast and Charter are making strong pushes into that area. Finally, we need your help to take the next step and really cut into that 50% number. 500,000 gets us from prototype to production. Thanks for your time. And with that, I will open it up to questions.